Hey everybody, welcome to How I See It with Kevin Levrone, starring IFBB Hall of Famer Kevin Levrone. This week we have a very special guest. His name is Joe Johnson, owner and operator of Marathon Fitness out of Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to the show, Joe.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
So, Kevin, how do you know this guy?
Well, Joe, man, he goes way back, old school, you know.
Yeah.
We always talk about old school, and I was in Nashville and I ran across Joe and his training methods and everything, and we connected, and we have a lot of the same similarity background, you know, hard work back in the day, basic training and stuff like that. And he was rambling and telling me, you know, things about our industry and our sport, and I was like, wow, you know. Our paths crossed, man, and through a mutual friend that we have, it's just it's been great. It's been great having good conversations with him and everything.
Joe,
you know?
You told me we had a little call earlier. You told me you met Kevin many years ago. What was your first meeting with him?
Very first meeting was at a show that I did back in Alabama, and he was the guest poser. Yeah, that was it was in the early '90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even remember who the promoter was of that show. It was man, you look like $1 million, man. I don't think the folks now can really appreciate you as you are right now.
Oh yeah, thanks, Joe.
What you look like back then. If they would have back then, they would know what symmetry is really about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Joe, this is when he had the wavy hair, right?
Yes. Yeah. He had all his hair then. He had all his hair. It was wavy.
I'm always trying to get him to grow the hair back, but he says it's too much work.
You want to know the funny thing? The thing that got me the most. I remember I came out from behind the stage to come out to the audience to watch him guest post.
Yeah.
And the thing that got me, man, was his goddamn hamstrings. His hamstrings were so large. I was like, how the hell does a person's hamstring go beyond their glutes? Because his hamstrings is bigger than his glutes. So, you know, had really impressive wheels, man. Had some wheels on him, man.
Yeah.
Was this around, had he just competed or was he about to compete? Was he in like contest shape?
It was maybe a couple of months before the Olympia. I think at the time the Olympia was back in October at those times. It really wasn't September.
That's right.
Yeah, so it was that show was around August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was like mid-August or something like that. And so you were not really ready for the Olympia, but you were already like, you can see that you were already like closing in on it.
And Joe, what was the name of that show?
It was in Huntsville, Alabama, and I forgot what they called the show back then, man. I mean, that's years ago, man.
Huntsville Classic.
Wow.
No, I don't know.
That sounds pretty close.
It probably was. I think there was something.
The Classic, and it was a national qualifier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but you know, Joe's amazing, man. You know, Whitney had introduced me to Joe. Whitney Wise at IFB Bikini Pro had brought me to Joe's studio, and I think at the time you guys were working together, right, Joe?
Yeah.
And,
yeah. She was one of my trainers for a short time.
Yeah, and so you know, I ran across Joe, and it was like running across Brotherhood. You know what I mean, Ron?
Was that the first time you'd seen him since you met him back in the
exactly. I mean, in my head, of course,
Yeah.
you know, we got YouTube and all that, so I still I still kept up with what he looked like and everything like that. Watched the whole process of him coming back and doing the Olympia.
Yeah.
So I watched the whole entire transition. I guess like everyone else, very anxious to see, you know, what he'd look like. I thought you did a great job, because coming back after a layoff like that, man, yo, dude, phenomenal job. Now the people,
Thank you.
on the outside, they really can't appreciate what you had to do in order to get back to that position where you were at, man. You did a great job. And then you looked even better.
Thanks.
So, yes.
Well, for one thing, I think you have to be over 40, and you have to have kind of followed Kevin back in the day to really, you know, really appreciate.
I'm 56 years old. I'm older than him.
Over 50, I think, is when you get the real appreciation of what it takes to get back into that kind of condition again after
Yeah.
How many years away? Was it 18 or something, Kevin?
No, it was like 15 years.
15
Ron.
still. That's a long ass time.
It's 2003. You know,
Yeah.
I came back in 2016.
So.
You know. So anyway, Joe and I passed across, and it was almost like we just knew each other, you know, because of the history of our sport and what Joe Weider laid down. And so we were able to connect with Arnold and, you know, Zane, and just the history of the sport of bodybuilding.
Oh, yeah.
So it became that brotherhood connection of, you know, what our sport, the foundation was about. And you know, he's a awesome, incredible trainer, and what Joe has done, and his education and his scientific approach to changing the body, you know, up to where we are now. So he's taking the old school, you know, the basics, and he's mixed it with the science of his education, and it became very, very interesting, the conversations and things that we would have. So here we are now, and I thought that it would be a great, great asset, a great discussion for my followers and our followers here at Muscular Development to have Joe on as a guest. So guys, you're in for a treat. This man is very, very educated, and I'm gonna just let Joe speak, and just Ron, you and him can go at it.
Okay.
And I know you got some questions for him.
Well, first, I want to get the educational background, but first I want to know, did Joe put you through a workout, Kevin?
Not quite yet. We didn't do that.
What are you waiting on, dude? Come on.
Yeah, not quite yet. Joe and I have some deep conversations about just about life and the mindset of a champion, what it takes to achieve, to go from 0 to 100 and staying positive, and the mental approach to life and climbing up that mountain, because people want to know, you know, not only you look good, but are you physically, is your mind straight? So these things is what's important also in building a championship approch to life. You know?
And Ron, for the record, it would be more of an honor for me to be trained by him, but the other way around. You know what I'm saying? Because
I bet you guys would have a lot to teach each other, because Kevin got 35 plus years.
Yeah.
I got 35. You must have more like closer to 40 at this point, right? 2 years
What's
of
that?
training?
Yeah.
Years of training?
Yeah, I started when I was 12 years old.
Joe, how about you? How many years of training?
My first introduction into the gym was ninth grade in high school.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was doing nothing but I'm from the Bronx, man. So you know, I'm coming up as a Bronx boy. I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, man. I mean, you know, it was like a war zone back then. So I mean, I had to beef up a little bit to try to be able to protect myself, man. So yeah, I was doing push-ups in my room before I was able to get a set of those weights by Dan Laurie.
Yeah.
The plastic, the cement on the inside. You know,
absolutely.
Dan Laurie was kind of like the low-budget Joe Weider. He had a magazine called Muscle Training Illustrated. He sold supplements. He sold his own equipment. He was a character.
He had a store in my neighborhood. He was from New York, so he had a store in my neighborhood, man.
I gotta ask about the Bronx, because you know that place had movies made about it. It was so rough, like Fort Apache, the Bronx. I think that was Paul Newman. But how tough was it to grow up in a place where the crime was just insane? You had to. Were you scared?
Put it like this, man. The movie Fort Apache, the Bronx, we laughed at it because it didn't even tell a piece of the story. That whole neighborhood where they actually filmed it at in the South Bronx, around Prospect Avenue, all that stuff. That whole neighborhood was I have friends that died in that area, man.
Wow.
Some really good friends of mine that got killed in that area.
Wow.
So that area was like, if you put it like this, if you could imagine going through like a number of city blocks, 5-6 blocks of apartment buildings, and the buildings are all burned out and no one's living in the buildings. You know? And you have to go through those neighborhoods to get to the bus stop, to get to the train, go see your girlfriend, whatever the hell it is that you had to do. So you know, you had to be on your P's and Q's. And I think, like, for me, I did have a lot of altercations. I had to fight myself out of a lot of different situations. But I was able to get over a lot of times just because I actually had a build on me. Yeah. So a lot of people were reluctant to try it. It got to where when it started getting to where people were using guns and knives and stuff like that, I had to play it down and wear really baggy clothes.
Wow. Oh, because you were a target because you were muscular?
Yeah, you're muscular, and you know people think they thought they couldn't take you. Then you know they try and just take you out.
Ooh.
So you know I'd have to wear baggy clothes so I get at least a chance.
Wow.
And that's how you did it.
Wow.
Kevin grew up on a farm with pigs and goats and horses. And, you know, I'm sure it was tough feeding all the animals there. But this sounds like hell on earth where he was. So Joe, tell us about your education, because you're not just a guy with like a personal training certification. You have a couple legitimate degrees. In our field.
Well, no doubt. I got into when I was so interested in bodybuilding, and you know back then they didn't have any certifications or anything like that. You couldn't go and get a degree in exercise science. There was none of that. But I loved the sport, and I was always intrigued with like human performance and stuff like that. I mean, I would watch basketball, you know, watch Dr. J flying through the air, and always wonder how did he do that. You know, those kinds of things always intrigued me. Yeah. And I remember as far back as when I was 7 years old, my mother would watch Jack LaLanne on television. You know, Jack LaLanne he's doing his little jumping jacks and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I remember watching that and saying to myself, that's something I want to do. Plus, I was really intrigued by that V-taper. And then at the same time, my dad was a mechanic, so he had really nice arms, and he would always, you know, flip a bicep and stuff like that. Back then, a lot of the guys back then were lifting weights and stuff like that anyway. Yeah. Not on the scale that we are today, but that's kind of what they were doing. But that interest in that, when the opportunity came up for college and stuff like that, that kind of drove me towards that career field. So when I got into college, I remember I was telling Kevin, it was a gentleman, an older gentleman by the name, ironically his name was Isaac Newton. Strangely, he was a West Indian brother. I worked at Izod Lacoste at the time. And he told me, he said, man, you're getting an opportunity to go back to school. Don't go and study something for, you know, just to get a job, because that's where my head was at, you know, poor black kid trying to make some money in New York, trying to keep a job and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of how I can just get a job or whatever. So he said, don't go to school and study something that, you know, just to get a job. He said, study something that you're really truly going to enjoy. So when I got into school, I took a class by a professor named Dr. Jones. Dr. Edward Jones. I took a class with him. It was physical science. It was just an elective course. Yeah. And I fell in love with the science, with the biology. We were covering like glycolysis and stuff like that. And I fell in love with that. And then from there, the next thing you know, I finished up with my bachelor's in biology, and then I'm down in Houston at Baylor College of Medicine and Methodist Hospital. I had a little gig down there working as a monitoring technician. Ended up working in the operating room with Dr. DeBakey, the cardiologist that discovered all of the stuff that they now use in the ORs and revolutionized bypass surgery. I worked in his OR. I scrubbed down with Dr. Reardon. If you know, Dr. Reardon is one of Dr. DeBakey's students. He's the one who performed bypass surgery on Boris Yeltsin back in the 90s. Oh, wow. So yeah, I scrubbed down and actually performed 2 surgeries with him. One was an anterior lumbar fusion, which we called it back then a laminectomy. Is basically you go in and remove a disc from the back disc that was in there and replace it with some decrystallized bone matter, and then sit, you know, like how they do now when people have to have like a disc removed and stuff like that. So they would do that, and then we did something with a scope. Actually, it was 3 surgeries. We did one where they had to remove like a gallbladder using a laparoscopic surgery, which was new back then. That was a new technique. It was like video games. And then a section of a person's colon. And so and from there, I ended up in D.C. at Howard University Hospital, and I worked up there for a while as an autopsy assistant. Wow. Yeah. So I did that for several months, actually, and eviscerated quite a few bodies. I got to where I could eviscerate a human body in probably like 15 minutes, you know.
I got to ask Joe, because I've never been around a bunch of dead bodies like that. Did you eventually, Was it tough for you at first? Did it creep you out, and did you get used to it?
The first thing that got me, you know, I was always willing to put myself in really tough situations. This is tough right now. I mean, you know, I'm a little nervous. I'm an MD, you know, but I put myself in a situation because it was a learning situation. I remember the first day I went in after they actually gave me the job, and I came in, I had my mask on and everything like that, scrubs on, booties on. And I walk into the autopsy suite, and there was a lady, a very large lady, that was on the table, and they had they did the Y cut on her, and her breasts were flipped back over her head, and they had her open, and I'm not lying. The layer of fat before they actually got to the abdominal cavity had to be about maybe close to 6 inches.
Wow!
Before it got down, it was just like that, exactly.
I think there could be even more. You ever watch My 600-Pound Life?
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't quite 600 pounds, but I'd give her about 300 pounds. She was pretty big.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the first time that my knees kind of wobbled a little bit. But then after that first day, I mean, after the first week, because the first week I couldn't eat meat for a while.
I bet.
It took away my my taste for meat for a little bit. But then once I got used to it, the smell, everything like that, it smells like a butcher shop, really.
Wow.
You know, so it's really we don't smell any different than, you know, if you were to, you know, go in there while they're sectioning a cow or something like that. Same thing.
Interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So when did you start applying all of this, you know, medical training and knowledge to, you know, improving human performance for athletes and the people who just like to train hard? How did that all happen?
Well, that actually started when I was in undergrad. When I was in undergrad, a lot of my friends, because I was already built, a lot of my friends wanted me to train them, and I didn't really know which direction I was going to take it in. I was just going to school just because I enjoyed it. Yeah. You know, I enjoyed the classes. I was like one of the first ones in there, last ones to leave. I finished at the top of damn near all my classes. So, you know, that was the drive. And then I was taking little bits of information, comparing it to some of the articles that I read in Muscle and Fitness, Flex Magazine, Ironman Magazine, MD, you guys, because, you know, there were some good articles in there. And surprisingly, a lot of the stuff that bodybuilders were talking about instinctively, and then you guys had really good writers back then. A lot of the stuff that we were talking about as bodybuilders and things like that, surprisingly, they were really backed up by science. But it was still, a lot of things were still being learned, you know what I mean? So what I was doing was I was taking little bits of information and applying it to myself. Like, I remember the day that I found out that insulin was the only truly anabolic hormone in the body. So now I knew from, you know, from all of my background that, insulin, if you don't know what you're doing, it'll kill you. Yeah. You know, you go on insulin shock, all that stuff. So I didn't want to mess with that, but how could I do it naturally? So it was really, I started trying to manipulate my carbohydrates, trying different types of carbs, because carbohydrates and glucose have the best effect on insulin release. Yeah. So I was trying to do that kind of stuff naturally, and I did pretty good. I mean, I took my body from let's see, when I was in high school, in 9th grade, I was like 138 pounds on the wrestling team. Okay. But I looked like I was about 150. Right. And then when I graduated, I was about 176 pounds. Like, at the time, my idol at the time was boxing legend Marvin Hagler.
Oh, yeah, from Brockton, Massachusetts, right next door to me.
Yes, exactly.
I got a picture with Marvin. We're both going like this.
Oh, you lucky son of a gun! You lucky son of a gun! Yeah. I wanted to build similar to his, that was athletic, so I could have the fluidity and movement, because I was into fighting back then. Yeah. Right? Kevin and I discussed that. So that I would apply all those things to myself. So I took my body from that up to about 205 naturally, and still maintained my waistline never got over a 28. Okay. So I maintained a very small waistline. I had the V-taper you know, the shoulders, and then I would, in order to get the size, I was hitting powerlifting contests throughout the whole Southeast region. That's what I was doing.
Okay. Well, Joe, I want to try to pick your brain and sort of make it useful to the people that watch Kevin's show every week on MD.
Keep it simple, because I haven't boned up on anything, man. So keep it simple.
All I know is simple, Joe.
Ron, you see what this guy is an excellent guest. Joe, you're so easy to listen to. Yeah. And I've listened to a lot of people in the last 30 years in this industry. I could listen to you all night long talking, man. It doesn't get boring because everything comes out of your mouth. It's very, very interesting.
Sometimes, man.
You know, so I mean, this is that first segment here, but I think you know, 2 or 3 more times, man, we'll just definitely open that door up for you, man, because the fans aren't going to want you to leave.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds cool
I
to me.
appreciate that.
They aren't going to want him to leave. He's a boatload of information, technically, scientifically, every single thing, guys. So that's why we have Joe Johnson here, and it's going to be great. So, Ron, what do you got for Joe?
Okay, well, I think this is helpful. A lot of guys, they read magazines like MD, and they see the training routines that we publish. That's my job, is to write training articles about, you know, the best bodybuilders in the world, guys like Kevin. So I'll put their training routines in there, and I know a lot of the people who read the magazine, they're going to emulate it, right, you know, to the letter. They're gonna rip the page out or whatever, or take it to the gym and follow it. Am I being irresponsible? Am I not serving all those people right? Because is someone like Kevin such an elite athlete? You know, he would have been elite at something, whether it would have been football or track. It ended up being bodybuilding.
Agreed.
Is he a different? Are these people who are elite athletes? You know, can they take more frequency, more volume, more than the average person should be doing?
Well, you know what? It all depends on where they are, because Kevin and athletes like him they're at a different level than somebody who's like just starting out a year or 2 into it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you can use the same technique, the same principles, but you may have to water it down for you. The weights are going to be different. You may have to work up to the rep range that you know that you put your thing, but that you're writing out for what he's doing versus what some of the readers are capable of doing. The rep range is going to be different, and then of course their nutritional background. In order for them to get the results that they want, they also have a lot of people today. That's one of the things I notice in the gym with a lot of the clients that I have coming in. Not just people who are athletes, but just general people in general. They are not aware of how much food that they have to eat in order to get the results and to be able to recover properly. And when you tell them that they have to, you know, that they have to eat X amount of food, X amount of calories, they say it's counterintuitive. Or you hear it's, I don't want to get bulky. I mean, but you want muscles. But people, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Yeah, I have a lot of ladies now coming in that are doing that. They want to do bikini.
Okay.
They want to do bikini, and they don't believe that they should have a certain type of muscular development or whatever. They only do certain things, and then they half starve themselves all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and even for them, you still have to build your muscles in order to get the look that you want. You have to use food in order to do it. So when you're trying to get, when you're writing, I don't think that you're being irresponsible by writing right now, because that's what when I read the magazines back then. Yeah. I read Muscle and Fitness back then, or Flex magazine or whatever. Yeah. It was I wanted his routine. I wanted Flex Wheeler's routine. I wanted Chris Cormier's routine. I wanted Gary Striden's routine. I didn't want to hear what somebody else was doing. That's what I wanted to do. Right. And I do remember having to adjust the reps for myself, and then realizing, okay, yes, well, I want to be able to do Kevin's. I mean, seeing him doing videos with 400 pounds and just repping it out on the bench press like it is nothing.
Well, that was still a warm up for Kevin, the 400.
Yeah, exactly. So for me to be able to get 5 sets of 15 on a given body part, with a given exercise, man, I had to drop the weights down significantly, man.
Yeah.
You know, but eventually, when I dropped the weights down, did it like that, eventually what happened is my weights eventually went up and I got stronger and the muscles grew in response to that. So those techniques work, but you still have to use your God-given brain in order to be able to get it to work specifically for you.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is kind of what I was getting at too, is especially back then, guys would train 6 days a week. It's very common. I think a lot of guys still do. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you're genetically elite and you have a strong athletic background and maybe you're enhanced too, wouldn't you probably recover a lot better than someone who was not genetically superior, was not on any drugs, probably didn't have? What I'm getting at is, do you think regular people should throw in more rest days than
yeah, absolutely. I right now, even when I was really knee deep into it, I mean, I was smart enough to know that I would never go more than 3 days without a rest period. So I mean, I would do 2 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off. Yeah. And if I took a long layoff, like let's say I took like 3 months out of the gym to let my body just like recover and heal, when I came back, I always started off with 1 on, 1 off, 1 on, 1 off. And then I went to 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, and then 3 on, 1 off. But I would never go more than 3 days straight because I'd be hurting.
Kevin, I think you were training every damn day for the Arnold Australia, weren't you? Like 7 days a week for a while?
Yeah, I was. But then again, I prepared myself for that. Yeah. Like right now, I'm not on that hardcore regime of training like that. Mm-hmm. My caloric intake is not up to where it can support that workload and heal my body. I do realize all those things. When I get in that kind of approach, Ron, that means everything's adjusted. My rest, recovery, my caloric intake, everything that I'm doing outside of the gym is allowing me to do when I hit the gym. And there's only a window of opportunity that I can do that, maybe 6 to 8 weeks straight, right? But not gassed out like that every single day all year round, or even 3 months straight. But I know my body, I know what I can do when things adjusted with the proper amount of, I was sleeping 10 hours a day. I was taking 2-hour naps in the middle of the day. Yeah. I was getting 8 hours at night. I was slamming 4,800 calories. So my training, I knew I was doing it full time, twice a day and stuff. So, that's, that's on the pro level, but for the average guy out there, when I first started off and I was doing construction work on my construction companies and stuff like that, I would work all day, and then I would go to the gym from 8 o'clock to like maybe 10 o'clock at night. And I would do exactly what Joe was saying. I would do 3 on and 1 off. Chest Monday, legs Tuesday, back Wednesday, and take a day off, and just come back to it and get the workouts in when you can. I don't remember doing like 16 sets per body part, 3 different muscle groups and stuff like this until actually I turned pro. Wow. And I could actually, and I could afford to do it full time. Yeah. Because, Joe put us on the contract back in the day. When you got a pro card, you actually got paid. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it ain't like today's time. There's so many pro cards and people aren't getting paid, and that's all over the place. But we were an elite group of people that when we turned pro, and back then it was only 146 pros, Ron.
In the world.
So when you got that, in the world. So when you got that pro card, you earned it, and it allowed you to, that became your job. That became your full responsibility. So all I had to do was eat, sleep, and train. Wow.
That's the best recipe for growth on the planet.
To put it in perspective, just to interrupt for a second, I believe the United States alone produces something like 200 to 250 new pros every year now.
Wow.
Every year.
Every year.
That's just the U.S.
Back then,
So, it was elite. When Kevin was a pro,
it was elite.
The class we won in 91 Nationals was like a pro show. It was crazy.
It was 275 men, competitors, bodybuilders.
In the Nationals, Wow.
It was running deep,
Yeah.
It was running deep. You definitely have to.
There's another one for you, Joe. You train people of all ages, right?
Yeah.
should a younger person, while they have, you know, more natural hormones and their bodies are more resilient, should they train more frequently and use more volume than someone who's 35, 40, 45 years old?
No, they still have to develop. They're still developing. Now, when you say younger, like what age group are you talking about?
I'm going to say like 18 to 25, because I don't think anybody under 18 should be following like a full-blown bodybuilding type of routine, personally.
Well, I think it depends on the individual, because there were some people around. Like, I think how old was Sean Ray when he really first came out, man? Because Sean Ray was
like 19. Sean was 20 when he turned pro.
22.
Yeah. So I remember seeing some footage of him that was on that show that Joe Weider had on ESPN Muscle Magazine.
Well, we had I was with the show called American Muscle Magazine on ESPN.
Right.
There was also a workout show called the Flex Workout. Kevin was on. Everybody was on that.
Everyone was on that one. Yeah.
All the Weider athletes.
It was Sean Ray and Boya Ko.
Yes, Sean Ray and Boya Ko. That was after Sean became pro.
Sean Ray.
Yeah. Sean, they did a thing with him, and he was in the classroom at the time. He was whatever school he was going to. They were in the classroom with him.
That was American Muscle. That was my show. I was the associate producer. Cal State Fullerton, because he won the nationals. He turned pro. He was still going to college.
Yes, I watched that show. So that's what I was saying. Individuals like that are exceptions to the rules. Yeah. You know what I mean? But for the general populace that are just starting out, I still think that they should take it easy and gradually get into it. Part of it is the nervous system is still forming enough. I mean, for a lot of people, the nervous system is not even fully formed until they're like, 21 and maybe a little bit more than that. So you want to be able to get the nervous system and the muscular system and the skeletal system all at their strongest. So you have to develop them slowly to minimize the chance of injury and things like that. And not only that, just to make sure that you have the mindset to be able to maintain it. You don't want to start real hard and then they quit. Yeah. So you have to be able to maintain it. I think they have to come in slowly and just kind of gradually increase the workload and the volume as time goes on.
I have a question for you, Joe.
Yeah.
Ron, chime in at any time. I would like to know why, or seems like in today's times, which it is, okay, IFBB professional bodybuilders are coming to the industry a lot older.
Right.
And it seems like they're able to, back in the day when you come in, you're 35, you're considered as old.
Yeah.
You know, you've missed your peak. You know, Arnold left in his, how old was Arnold when he got 6 Olympias?
27.
27. Lee Haney.
Yeah.
8-time Mr. Olympia at 31 years old.
Yeah.
Now you have guys coming into our sport starting off at 35 years old, competing well into their late 40s. You know? Why is this happening now in today's time compared to the science back then? Why were we considered as washed up, or not washed up, but you're old as a bodybuilder when you got to like 30? You can't develop any more, whatever. What's changed, Joe?
Probably, man, I would say some of it is probably technology. The equipment has gotten better. Maybe supplementation. Some supplements have gotten better. The knowledge about how to use performance enhancements has gotten better. People are willing to take more risks now than they did back then. And like Ron said, the field has opened up. So now there's 250 people turning pro per year versus back when it was a small field, so people were coming in young. But my personal opinion, I think that bodies tend to look better with time, especially when someone's been putting in the work for 10 years versus someone who's been putting in the work for 2 years. You're going to be able to see a difference. Someone who's putting in, 20 years of in bodybuilding, their muscle maturity, everything like that is going to be so much better. That's my personal opinion. It really depends on the individual. But now, I guess now that the floor, like Ron said, is opened up, you're seeing more people who are not afraid to come on the stage at a later age, like what's his name, Sean Roden,
yeah,
like that, and coming in at a later dates in life and stuff like that, and looking great and being
well, let me ask you this, Joe. I think, and Ron, correct me. I think the training approach is a lot different too, because I see now these guys are coming and doing higher reps. I don't see any bodybuilders out there doing deadlifts. Like, it seems like they're just doing not a lot of basic stuff that we used to do. You know, I don't really see guys doing really, like most of these bodybuilders today are using the machines.
Yeah.
Right? To where, like, do you think that might have something to do with the longevity? And you very seldom hear any of them ripping or even tearing a muscle, right, Ron?
Well, you see it. You don't see it as often, but I mean,
yeah.
I want to go. I want to chime in for my 2 cents on why bodybuilders are older now, training for older.
What?
3 main things I see. One, there's so many chances now for masters to turn pro. You got Masters Nationals. You have Masters divisions at the Universe and at the North American. So you have, I don't know how many pro cards in total, but back in the day, if you were 40, 45, 50, tough luck. I think they did have a Masters Nationals, but that was later on.
Yeah,
there
I
weren't
don't
that many
remember.
opportunities for an older guy. He would have to compete
Right.
against the young lions, and good luck.
Right.
Whereas now there's tons of opportunities. Another thing is, all we had back then was bodybuilding. We didn't have men's physique with the board shorts. We didn't have classic physique. If you were a guy and you wanted to compete, you had to be a bodybuilder. Now they have all these other. You go to a show now, any show. Kevin, you're a contest promoter. You know this.
Yeah.
You go to a show, and I'd say 2/3 or 3/4 of all the men in the contest are in men's physique and classic physique. Bodybuilding takes longer. It takes years and years to get a bodybuilder's physique, and it's not many people these days seem to have that kind of patience. That's why I think we're seeing.
I agree with that. That makes
I agree with
a
it
lot of
too.
sense.
Yeah.
But as far as the training, I don't know. I see on Instagram a lot of people doing deadlifts and stuff, but they're not necessarily bodybuilders. Those lifts, especially the deadlift, has become like a trendy thing for like regular gym people to try to max out on and put on their Instagram.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that training method. In fact, that's one of my pet peeves. I can't tell you how many videos I've watched where the form on a deadlift was like absolutely horrible. I mean, you see somebody trying to max out with 315 pounds and it looks like they're breaking their back, or they, trying to attempt 500 pounds and they're obviously nowhere ready for 500 pounds. Their back is bent like, you know how you take a dry piece of spaghetti and it looks like it's going to, exactly. That kind of stuff was really not even heard of back then. I had to, when I was getting ready for a powerlifting meet back then, I would start cycling my training like 8 weeks out from the show, and then you're using periodization techniques and adding on percentages of your max each week as you went along like that. That's how we did it. And then of course I see a lot of hitching. I see people doing a lot of hitching and counting that as deadlifts, and I'm like, what kind of judges are these guys having right now? Because hitching is not allowed. I mean, I could ride 400 pounds up my leg right now. But
we got to talk about machines versus free weights. Kevin loves the free weights. I'd say from our conversations, it seems to me.
Yeah, I love free weights.
Like 90%, 95% of what you do is free weights.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's the respect and the honor for the sport. It's hard work.
Yeah.
Hey, it all started from push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups.
Right.
Then the bench press came out, and your 3 base moves: bench, deadlifts, and squats.
That's it.
That's the foundation of building any physique. And Joe and I was talking about this earlier, right, Joe, on the phone.
Yeah.
It's amazing how we were talking about back in the day. Football players didn't want to lift weights, and martial arts guys didn't want to lift weights because they thought it would make you bulky, make you slow. Now every athlete is out there. Tennis players are in the gym training, doing sets and reps and high reps and lunges and all this stuff. So
That's
Right,
the influence of bodybuilding. That's the influence of bodybuilding.
That's the influence of bodybuilding, man.
Even I was telling Kevin, even physical therapy. I mean, that field, which I mean, is a lot of people are pursuing degrees as physical therapists and stuff like that. That field owes a lot of its movements and things like that, and its growth to bodybuilding. So I just wish that they would give bodybuilding its due.
Yeah, the basic foundation, man, it's never going to go away. I mean, that's exactly what this thing was built on. We're talking about the Weeder principle.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
If you look at how the food pyramid has changed over the past 50 years,
right,
it's finally getting closer to the way bodybuilders have been eating for like 40, 50 years.
Well, yeah,
exactly, right?
Exactly.
But Joe, before we leave that subject, I need to get your opinion on, a lot of guys do use mostly machines these days, and we see some pretty awesome physiques. Do you really need a lot of free weights in your training to build your best physique or not?
I believe you have to use a little bit of everything. You know, like Kevin said. Like Kevin said, the core of your training should be those basic moves, the squat, deadlift, and the bench press. It should still be that. And use machines as a supplement and hit, like if you're hitting shoulders, belts,
detailed stuff, right?
Detailed movements that, you know, that those gross movements can't seem to handle. So then, and not only that, when you're doing all of those supporting exercises on the machine, those supporting exercises actually help to make the gross lifts, like the squat and the deadlift and the bench press, a lot safer for you. So that way you're less prone to be injured when you're doing it. So you do have to strengthen your pecs. You do have to strengthen your shoulders. And yes, those things will help it will help you bench press if you are doing those things on the machines. But those have to be done right too. I've seen people get hurt on machines.
Yeah, you can hurt yourself on anything. So Joe, give me your opinion on this, because this is the way, like, I've trained for, forever now, 20, 30 years. Say it was chest day. I always found personally, and I know other people can do multiple free weight presses and their strength doesn't diminish. Like Ronnie Coleman will do 200s for flat, 200s for incline, same workout, no problem. I found that I was only good at doing like one free weight press to the best of my ability, and after that my balance and coordination were messed up. So I would start off with like flat dumbbell press or an incline dumbbell press or incline barbell press.
Right.
Work up and go as heavy on that for a few good sets, and then I would go to like a hammer strength machine, Smith machine, pec fly, cable crossover. That worked well for me. Is that a good sequence that you think most people would be, or do you think most people would probably be better off trying to use free weights until the very end where they throw in a machine or a cable?
Brother man, the way that you did it is the very same way I was doing it. I'd come in the gym, I would go right, like, give it again, let's go to chest. Come in the gym, first thing I would do back then, put on 135 pounds, because that was like 135 pounds to me back then was like the fucking empty bar, you know what I mean?
Remember being young?
Yeah, I just come in there and just knock out about 15 reps. I wouldn't even lock out. It would just be little short strokes.
Yeah.
And then I would gradually pyramid up to whatever. The one thing I didn't do back then that I learned from powerlifting, I never tried to max out in the gym. All right. I went into, when I was bodybuilding, I went in the gym with a specific task. It was not trying to see how much weight I could lift.
Right. Leave the ego outside.
Yes. And then once I finished the bench press and I got that out the way, I would probably hit, if I was doing, I had days when I would do like, I would do barbell bench press and then go to an incline bench press with the bar. And then the following week, instead of coming in and using the barbell, I'd hit the same movements but using dumbbells. Yeah. And then I'd flip it around. And then after I finished those movements, then I would go over and start hitting pec deck flies, you know, cable flies and things like that. The detailed movements after I got the pump in my chest from doing the bench and things like that. I didn't go to the machines first. Because it seemed like if I went to the machine first and I start trying to do pec deck flies, the tie-in, where the pecs would tie in, would get sore and would actually detract from my ability to bench properly. Yeah. And actually my pump would be different. I wouldn't get the pump that I wanted. So I started the pump by using the benches first and using the barbell and going heavy on that first, and then coming in using the lighter weight not trying to inflict more pain, but trying to get a really good ass pump. Like Kevin was saying back then with the reader principle,
yep.
We really focused on the pump and the feeling of the muscle. You know, we weren't going in haphazardly, just going through motion.
Right.
Joe Weider had it down. I followed everything that guy said, focused on
the Weider peak contraction principle and the Weider flushing principle.
Yes. Focus on the daggone negative, coming down on that
Absolutely.
contraction, and focusing on that was a big part of my movement. You know, that kind of, to get the cuts and stuff like that you needed.
Yeah. Guys, I don't want to wrap things up too soon, but my power is at like 3%.
Okay.
And I think we should do segment number 2, Ron.
Yeah. Well, I think we don't want to give them everything at once. They're not going to come back and watch anymore.
Continue. Joe, I want to thank you for coming on. How can the readers, the listeners, the people, where can they find you, Joe?
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram. I have two pages. One is for the gym. We're at marathon_fitness. And my own personal is My Joe Body, which is just there for me and myself and my friends to just, like, you know, keep up with one another. I have a few pictures of what I look like now. I still look great. Mm-hmm. And like I said, 100%.
Joe's awesome.
I'm always doing everything on the natural tip because but I love the sport of bodybuilding. I don't care what you're doing, what you're using. That stuff never mattered to me because, like Joe Weider said, hey, it's the big guys that bring in the show. You know what I'm saying? So
the lions and the tigers.
I didn't go to bodybuilding for guys like myself. I wanted to see the guys that look like Kevin. That's what I'm talking about. So,
well, Joe, man, I'm gonna tell you, man, you're very, very interesting to listen to. Not only that, but you a boatload of information, and I know our listeners and people who are tuned into the show right now, they want to hear more. Like I want to hear more. You know. And Ron, what do you think about segment number 2 and continue this thing with Joe, man? Joe, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on our show here in Muscular Development. You're a great asset, man, and looking forward to talking to you continuously on the next show.
Absolutely.
Pick your brain more. And guys, you have questions for Joe out there, shoot the questions to Ron at Muscular Development. Ron, where can they send the questions, email the questions over to?
I will start another thread, say questions for actually I had one called Questions for Kevin Levrone, but I'm going to start one for you, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to have you send me a nice picture of yourself grinning or something. So I'm going to steal it so people can submit questions because this is just me like trying to think up stuff, but the viewers are going to have some very specific questions for you, and I know you're going to be able to help a lot of people. So that's awesome. Kevin, thank you for introducing us all to this guy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's incredible.
Ron is great.
Joe,
And Kev, thank you very much for suggesting that I get on the show. Ron, thank you for having me, brother, man.
Kevin, does he know how to do this thing? The
shaboom?
Shaboom.
I'm pretty sure Joe knows everything, man.
Shaboom.
All right.
How about on 3, guys? On 3. Shout out to Joe. Shout out to Marathon Fitness. Ron Harris here, Muscular Development. Thank you guys for the platform. You know how we rolling, baby. We're out. 1, 2, 3.
Shaboom. Thanks for watching How I See It with Kevin Levrone. See you next time.